Welcome to a new episode of The Truth is Barrel Proof. I'm Jack Bigadoo, also known as the Hood Sommelier. On this episode, we are going to find out what is the first president of the United States has to do with bourbon. Welcome to the episode. If you're new here, I'm Jack Bigadoo, and today we are talking about Epsy House Bourbon, the Washington Reserve. I really didn't know anything about this bourbon, but they reached out to me and said, let us tell you what Pennsylvania is trying to bring on the market. I actually reached out and really wanted to know more, and really it is about history. This bourbon talk about our first president, George Washington, and the house he stayed in, which is called the Epsy House. This house now is what do you call it, a historic monument in which now they have this bourbon in. It will be that house where you can go taste it if you're in Pennsylvania. But it also highlight the Whiskey Rebellion, which was when they wanted to tax more for this whiskey and people came out and rebelled. But again, highlighting bourbon as the American spirit and giving the folks a little piece of history. And again, being an immigrant from Africa, I learned more and more about American history. I know the geography, but the history, honestly, I'm learning more and more about it. And it's exciting to know that our first president, George Washington himself, has something to do with bourbon, good or bad. But this is the first edition of what they call the Washington Reserve. This bourbon comes at 56.45% ABV, which is 112.9. It is barrel strength, and also they were actually very transparent. They tell you right on the bottle it was distilled at Bardstown Bourbon Company. I will tell you guys right now, Bardstown is killing it with how they are bringing bourbon to folks. And I'm looking at this thing going, hey, Bardstown is getting there, trying to become, I call it the Kentucky MGP, but they really are not afraid to help new brands that want to tell the story. So barrel strength, I'm assuming around maybe 6-7 years old. That's what I will assume, but there's no age statement on this. But there is only their barrel 7 of this release, again, first one out on the market. So Pennsylvania, there you go. You got a bourbon of your own. Now you have to understand that Bardstown Bourbon Company have multiple recipes, and a lot of people can actually and usually will request their own type of recipe that they want for their bourbon. So you can say that if somebody's bringing something from Bardstown Bourbon Company, means that it's the same as their own recipe. No, they have multiple recipes. The nose on this is quite interesting. First, let's look at the color. Color looks beautiful, a little dark copper. The nose is a little faint. For 112, I was expecting a little bit, but there's some nice sweetness coming through on the nose here. Obviously the normal cherry, but I'm getting a little bit of spiciness coming through as well. But it's some apple also on the nose. So really fruity on the nose, but he's holding some spice, which is getting me excited here. All right. Okay. All right. Cheers. Mm. Okay. All right. It's a little light on the mouth, but the beginning, you get a little bit of those burnt sugar, caramel, sweetness. Mid palate is a little flat, but at the end you get those spice notes, bacon spice, cinnamon, Let me see. A little bit of caramel, a little bit of apple, but it doesn't taste what I would call matured. It doesn't taste, it tastes a little young because you still have a little bit of that gratiness in the mid palate. But for me, it is solid in the middle. Taste wise, you get that nice, beautiful, burnt, like sugar or dark sugar, some caramel burnt drizzle with some apple and a little bit of cherry. The oak is missing a little bit, which may be a good thing because some people don't like too much of that oak, so you don't get a lot of that oak. The finish, I want more on the finish. Really, I get more of that finish with some light sweetness, some light caramel on the sweetness, but I will have really want more on like a little more punch or some personality at the end. But all in all, solid bourbon. It's Epsy House Barrel Proof, a piece of American history, Pennsylvania, bringing the heat, working with Bardstown Bourbon Company to bring you Epsy House. One last sip to be sure. Yeah, some nice, I call it caramel and some creme brulee, almost some creme brulee coming in creamy. Honestly, it's much more creamy. It doesn't drink like 112 at all. It doesn't drink like 112 at all. Third sip, I think is opening up nicely since I just had it, but it's sitting down here for a little bit. It's opening up very nicely. And that's why sometimes I tell people, you can't just jump in and go, I don't like a whiskey, or whiskey is not giving me what I need right on the first sip or on the second sip. Let it sit a little bit. And obviously, as it opens up, beautiful, even a little bit of those flowery notes are coming through on the whiskey. So this is a solid whiskey, Bardstown Bourbon Company, Pennsylvania, Epsy House. Let me know if you heard of it before, what you think of it. And till next time, thank you for joining. Cheers.